Hey guys, it's Ryan from newsdeadworld.net. What's going on? I'm back with a review of Scream Factory's Blu-ray release of Jeepers Creepers 2. If you've been paying attention to the channel at all, you'll know that I did the previous film prior to this one, the first film in the series from Victor Salva. And in that one, I kind of commented on how I wouldn't be talking about Victor Salva's past at all, and his prior sexual molestation charges. So I won't go into that again with this review of Jeepers Creepers 2. You know all about that. You can decide with your moral obligations whether you want to watch and support the film or if it's just too much to take in from a child molester. So that is totally up to you. But for this release, I am going to not touch on that again. So we're going to talk about the collector's edition of Jeepers Creepers 2, which is basically very similar to the first film that Scream Factory released. They released around at the same time, and so they get a very, very similar collection of special features and even the way that the film is structured, the releases are structured. This is a two-disc release, and it comes with the first disc, the film itself, a couple of audio commentaries on there. The difference between that first one and this one is that these audio commentaries are not new. The first one featured a new audio commentary from Victor Salva and then an older audio commentary. And this Blu-ray release for Jeepers Creepers 2 does have a Victor Salva audio commentary on it, but it does not have the anything new from him for this particular release. That was I think included on the previous double feature release of Jeepers Creepers and Jeepers Creepers 2, not done by Scream Factory, but they ported it over to this release. So anyway, this gets the same HD transfer as well. It doesn't get a 2K scan like the first film did for its collector's edition. So this one is a little bit of a drop in quality from that 2K scan, but not noticeable in really any way. I don't really notice that sort of thing at all. I'm not a video quality snob, except for I used to be totally against Blu-ray. Like, I don't need that. You know, DVDs are fine for me. I don't really notice the difference at all. And now I can't watch a DVD. It just doesn't work. Doesn't work for me. So maybe in the future I will be able to pick out the differences between all of the different scans, 4K, 2K, regular HD. But right now I just don't have that eye for it. So. But maybe you can, so that's why I'm going to leave it up to you to figure out whether you think the quality is good enough for you or if you need something a little bit more. But anyway, let's stop talking about the Blu-ray aspect of it first and get right into the film itself. Victor Salva's Jeepers Creepers 2 came out in 2003, which was only 2 years after the release of the first film. And this time he carries over the desolate roadside setting, but adds a lot more of the body count to the film. So the Creeper returns, and it's basically just a couple days after the events of the first film. And now it's the day 23. It's when the Creeper has to do all of its work before it goes into hibernation mode. So there's some tension there that if you're siding with the Creeper, that he's not going to get all of his body parts, whatever he needs. Salva doesn't really go into much detail as to what exactly the Creeper has to do when he's awake for these 23 days during spring. I think that the Creeper is a little bit of a contradictory monster at this point, especially within Jeepers Creepers 2. There's no real rhyme or reason to what he's doing, and so in this film, when he targets a bus carrying a bunch of brawny, big guys, high school football players, he's really looking to capture a few different pieces of them to eat and then to include in his own physique. Why? Don't really know. I mean, he's already got a nice set of eyes from Justin Long, which does come up within Jeepers Creepers 2. We do see Justin Long's character return in dream sequences, but nothing more than that. And it repeats that same shot of him missing his eyes within this film as well. So it's nice to see that they kind of carried that over, that that a little bit of continuity from the first film. But really, that's kind of it for the features of Jeepers Creepers 2 that port over from the first. This sequel is by far a lot less effective in the scares department. There's nothing that here that really matches that first act within Jeepers Creepers, where the creeper is kind of dual style coming up on the Justin Long and Gina Phillips characters when they're cruising down the highway. There's still, like I said, there's still that desolate roadside setting, which is something of a standpoint from Victor Salva's perspective as to how the creeper operates. And so he kind of carries that over and adds a lot more people to this film so that there's a bigger body count. You put that number 2 on Jeepers Creepers, and that means that there's got to be a lot more violence and gore within this to kind of amp things up a little bit from the first film. But the first film had some strong points to it that didn't really necessarily need gore. It was more so the tension of driving along alone and not really knowing the people that are out there with you on this road that could potentially be serial killers like the creeper actually is. That first sequence in Jeepers Creepers, which I talked about a little bit in the previous film review, it's really scary because at that point, the creeper isn't a monster. He's just a guy on the road who's a little nutty. And so that is so effective in that moment. And then it becomes less effective as the creeper turns into the monster that he eventually becomes, with the wings and the kung fu and all that stuff. That's kind of the more ridiculous parts of Jeepers Creepers that don't work as well. And so Jeepers Creepers 2 is an extenuation of that part of Jeepers Creepers. This time, the audience knows that this creeper is not a human being. It's a monster, an ancient monster that feasts on those that it decides have the right scent of fear. So you don't want to give off that scent. Put on some Axe body spray or something to mask the scent if you're entering creeper territory, because he's going to smell that fear on you. And I like to think that he would like me. I mean, he seems to go after hunky dudes, and I would say, I'm pretty hunky myself. I would say that he probably would go after me. I think I have nice eyes. He seems to like the brown eyes from Justin Long, but I've got nice blue ones, so I think he might go for me. So I definitely wouldn't want to venture into that territory. In this film, he goes after a lot of kind of douchey high school kids who just get done winning their high school football game. And these kids have a lot of gay tendencies. Jeepers Creepers 2 does not skimp on the gay themes, or the racist themes for that matter. There is a character in here that really we're meant to follow as the main character, named Scotty, played by Eric Nenninger. I hope I'm saying that right. That's a fun last name, though, to say. Nenninger. He's basically our lead character, except for the fact that we don't like him at all. He's a total dick. And honestly, I'm not really sure that was the best way to frame Jeepers Creepers 2. And anyway, he ends up dying, like, not even the whole way through the film. So I think that was, like, Victor Salva's nod to the audience. Like, yeah, I know you guys hate this fucking asshole, but, we're going to kill him off before the end of the film so that gets rid of him. But he's pretty racist, sexist, homophobic. All of those things combined make for a total douchebag guy that we really don't like, even though our narrative is basically told from his perspective. He's an asshole that even when he loses the game, they don't even lose, actually, they win the championship, but he's pissed because black dudes got to play over him. He thinks the coach has it in for him. So the whole theme of Jeepers Creepers 2 that doesn't have to do with somebody eating a bunch of teenage kids is the whole racial and homophobic viewpoints of its characters. And in a way, Salva brings up some interesting points. I mean, there's always going to be, in high school, there's always that tendency to pick out the people that are different. And so this really hits home, I think, for Salva as for the homophobic viewpoint that's coming through within this film. And so we're meant to not like Scotty, but at the same time, it makes it hard to even want to be in the same vicinity as him because he is so terrible as a person. But really, he's not the only one, and I think Jeepers Creepers 2 refrains from really picking a main character. It wants the audience to feel for all of these characters in some way. A lot of them just really are not likable, and so that's a big problem within Jeepers Creepers 2. At least in the first film, Justin Long and Gina Phillips, for all of their flaws, they were our viewpoint into what the film is about. And even though we may think like Justin Long's character is a little whiny, at least we still want to root for him, especially thanks to that beginning sequence. But Jeepers Creepers 2 just doesn't really have that. It feels like Salva was more wanting to just increase the body count, increase the kills, and put a few interesting set pieces in there as well. There's one scene where the Creeper is terrorizing these kids on the bus because most of Jeepers Creepers 2 is set on a bus. I mean, that's literally the setting. It doesn't break from there, and I think I can come back to this in a little bit, but that's Salva trying to focus on the things that made Jeepers Creepers, the first film, so scary and interesting, but just not really succeeding. But anyway, there's a scene where the Creeper is actually wounded, stabbed through the head with a sort of pick or, something that they stab through the top of the bus as he's terrorizing them and crashing through the bus. And he actually falls over and his wing falls through the top of the roof. Now, his wing is very membranous. It's kind of like described as a shower curtain, so they can lift it up and it's kind of all floppy and they have to kind of hold it up in the air. And then as one of the characters steps through, it snatches him, wraps him up in the wing and pulls him up into the air and actually somehow takes off his head so that the Creeper can eat it and then push it up through his tummy until it becomes a new head. The idea is interesting, very cool. The execution is not as good as what could be. Salva is really trying to make this more comedic, and as most horror films get within their sequels, it's a lot cheesier and definitely not as successful in a traditional scary sense. But there are a couple of other scenes that do manage to bring up some tension. The first sequence in the film, which involves a family that live on a farm, including Ray Wise, his character Jack Taggart Sr. It's his family that's living on this farm, and so his son is out in the cornfields and he's kind of putting up these scarecrows, and he sees a scarecrow in the distance. Doesn't really look like the rest of the scarecrows, and we can tell, because we're smart audience members, that he's wearing the same hat and clothing as the Creeper normally does. And so there's this really tense sequence where the boy is kind of continually staring at this scarecrow and wondering, is he moving? Are his feet moving? And then all of a sudden, the Creeper jumps off of the scarecrow's post and starts chasing after him and dragging him through the corn. That's a really cool part. So it's a nice way to start the film off. A strong point to the film. And so it's not always as lame as I kind of have been making it out to be. Ray Wise is really great in this role. I mean, he gets to kind of just chew scenery throughout the whole thing. He has a fucking harpoon gun attached to his truck that he uses to reel in the Creeper as he's flying through the air. You can think of it kind of like that ghost ship sequence where all of the wires snap and everybody's decapitated on that ship. The same premise holds true here. They're all concerned with how the wire is going to snap and cut off their heads and stuff. But it's a pretty cool sequence, and you don't normally see a dude with a harpoon gun stuck to his truck. So Ray Wise can kind of brag about that when he's talking about Jeepers Creepers 2. So he's probably the best part of Jeepers Creepers 2 by far. I mean, his storyline actually makes a little bit of sense, and it has some pathos to it, whereas the Kids on the School Bus is really just kind of fodder for the Creeper, and kind of creepy in its own way, as Salva writes it, because there are, like I said, there are a lot of gay themes. There's a lot of talk about ass, which, you know, I said I wouldn't get into that, but just a little bit there, which is kind of creepy. But other than that, you know, it just, Jeepers Creepers 2 doesn't match the strong points of the first film, and so I had a few issues with the first film anyway. So this is, again, just kind of a inferior sequel to what was a mediocre film anyway. I think that the Creeper is a flawed monster to begin with. In this film, the special effects don't do him any justice. I mean, there's still those stupid kung fu moves, him scrabbling up a bus, wire work that looks pretty kind of bad, and special effects, especially within the air as the Creeper's flying, that really look just not so good now. They haven't held up very well. But some of the other effects, like the Creeper pushing the head out through his neck and reattaching to his head, or, well, turning into a head, basically, is pretty cool. And it's cool to see how that is done, especially when the facial features of it turn into the regular Creeper features. It's kind of weird, and it's a cool idea, and I wish they had done a little bit more with that portion of it, where we see him eating these things and taking on those body parts. But even the Creeper song, the Jeepers Creeper song, doesn't pop up in this at all. It's kind of weird. Isn't that what it's based on? I don't know. So I kind of liked this metaphor simile that I used within the review. Jeepers Creepers 2 is kind of like doubling the ingredients in a recipe and hoping that you're going to get the same result, that it's still going to taste good, even though that might not be the best way to double your recipe, to make it for more people. In this case, the batch happens to be a bunch of young rippling teens. And though they do look handsome, the end result isn't as tasty as Jeepers Creepers 1. And so, like I said before, even I wasn't a huge fan of the first film, so really, Jeepers Creepers 2, not so good. I am interested to see what Salva can do with Jeepers Creepers 3, because there's been some talk about what they're doing with it. It's codenamed Cathedral. Are they going to return to the events between Jeepers Creepers 1 and Jeepers Creepers 2? Are they going to do it after? Is the Creeper really dead? Those are things that I actually would be interested in finding out, especially since it's been so long since the first film released. And so, hey Bart, you're on camera there. We almost lost him today. Couldn't find him for hours. He actually was gone all night long, so we were terrified that he was gone. Thought the Creeper snatched him up. But anyway, Jeepers Creepers 2 I gave a 6. And to kind of compare that, Jeepers Creepers 1 I gave a 6.5. So you could see the exponential decrease of the rating there. And, you know, I think I even was being a little bit nice about my rating for Jeepers Creepers 2. But this package is really nice. It's, like I said before, it's a 2-disc Blu-ray. The second disc has all the special features on it. And like the first one, there is a Now and Then documentary which has interviews with Salva and some of the editors and directors of photography, which is really nice. Gives us a little bit of background into the making of Jeepers Creepers 2, especially the part where it was hindered by 9/11, really. Or that's how Salva thinks of it. Came out around the same time and didn't do so well at the box office. You know, I think that's kind of discounting the fact that it just wasn't that great of a film. But, I mean, I can see how a violent film might not fare so well at the box office when a ton of, like, terrorism has just occurred. So people were kind of looking for happy things, like, you know, movies about dogs and penguins and stuff like that. Not so much people eating people. So, the other things that we get on this, some more interviews with the secondary characters like Tom Gossam Jr. And Diane Delano as well. She comes back to speak a little bit about her character. We also have so a few of the special features that were brought over from the older release of Jeepers Creepers 2, which I think was that double feature that was released previously. And so a lot of those are old stuff, but it's nice to have them all in one place. And there's really a lot of stuff on here, especially if you haven't seen that old stuff. So there's a couple new things, a few old things, and so really it's definitely worth spending the money on it, especially if you've already gotten the first one. You want these together. I mean, they look very nice. You want to put these on your shelf, back to back. Jeepers Creepers 1, Jeepers Creepers 2. You need that. You need that on your shelf. So the entire package, I gave a 7.5, which in my eyes, my ratings, is good. So really the special features themselves bolster that score a little bit. So check it out. Check out Scream Factory's releases. They always do a good job, even though there are a lot of people that like to bitch about their video quality and stuff like that. Those people are snobs. I don't buy into that. If the picture looks good and you're not squinting like, or it's not buffering, or there's no VHS scan lines on it, you're fucking fine to watch it. Just watch it and stop complaining and stop looking at your bit rate the entire time and just watch the movie. So that's my rant on people who are too roped into their video quality to really actually enjoy a film. But anyway, I realize I still haven't done the Outcast reviews. I don't know. No excuses for that. Haven't had time. Work is a bitch. You know, the usual. But I will be back with some other reviews. I really do hope to do Outcast sooner or later. I have Friday and Monday off this weekend. So it's a long weekend, so I could probably get caught up there and post up like a episode 2 and 3 video or something like that. If anybody cares, let me know in the comments. Let me know in the comments what you think about Jeepers Creepers 2, because I'd be interested to see how you feel about this sequel and whether you think it is as good as the original, or if it definitely didn't meet those expectations. So I'm interested to see what your thoughts are on that. Thanks for watching. Make sure that you subscribe to this YouTube channel, because that's how you're going to get all the updates, and you're helping me make like 28 cents every time somebody watches this video 500 times. So thank you for the the small monetary gain there. But anyway, check out themooninsdeadworld.net, which is where all my written reviews are posted. You can also check out the video reviews there as well, because I do put them up there. And thanks for watching. I'll be back next time. Bye-bye.